Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. In a moment, we're going to talk to State Senator Vin Gopal about the new marijuana law, also on today's show. How is the holiday shopping season going so far? We'll check in with a local mall. And a place to go when home for the holidays is not safe. Also, we'll introduce you to the best donuts you have ever tasted, and they're made right here in New Jersey. And now, our interview with State Senator Vin Gopal. It seems like legalized recreational marijuana is now a fait accompli in New Jersey. Here to talk about that and many other issues is Senator Vin Gopal of the 11th Legislative District, which is in Monmouth County. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being back. So you voted yes?
Look, I think as a country, the war on drugs has failed us. We spend billions of dollars locking up nonviolent criminals. The studies of alcohol and nicotine and many other drugs which are legal have shown even worse effects. So I haven't seen any research. I've taken my time. We've talked to a lot of folks out in Colorado and a lot of these states. And I want our law enforcement dollars to be spent on going after rapists and murderers. I don't want to see someone who gets arrested for a bag of pot who 10 years later can't get a job. That doesn't help anybody.
Are you worried about more accidents on the road? Are you worried about higher auto insurance because of this?
No, the reality is if somebody wants to drink or whether they want to smoke, legal or illegal, they're going to do it anyway. It's happening right now. So we should regulate it. We should kill the black market. We need to make sure it's done the right way and educate folks.
I know you, and I know you're being truthful when you talk about the social justice aspect. But a lot of people roll their eyes at that and think this isn't about any kind of social justice. This is about money and making money for the state. What do you say to that?
Well, look, I think if that was the case, we would have done it much earlier. The governor wanted this done in the first 100 days. If you recall, the legislature and the governor had some disagreements on the state budget, specifically funding. If this was what the legislature's intent was, we would have done this prior to the budget process July 1st. That's not what happened. We took our time, we did our due diligence, and we want to get a bill that really respects and values the social justice issue of this cause.
Is it a significant amount of money?
It's not as significant. We're having some disagreement right now with the governor. The governor wants a higher tax rate. We think a lower tax rate is better, which is comparative to other products that are sold, such as nicotine or alcohol. And the reason behind that is we have to kill the black market. A lot of people do harder drugs because drug dealers out there are selling marijuana, then they choose to sell a different drug to that person. That's why we need to regulate this industry and make sure that they can't get their hands on heroin or cocaine or harder drugs. And that's why the black market has to be eliminated.
So let me just explain that. And it would seem obvious, but let me just explain it in case somebody's not following you on that. You need to keep the price down, lower than what a drug dealer would sell it at. If you don't do that, people will still go to the drug dealers, and then they'll have access to possibly heroin, fentanyl, and other things.
Absolutely.
And that's where you want to go on that.
That's why it's so important to keep the rate down.
What's the holdup now?
The holdup is that the governor is looking at a higher tax rate for...
And is that the only thing? Is that it?
There's also a disagreement on how it's going to be governed. Look, Larry, our alcohol laws are so screwed up because government at that time made some poor choices that now affect us to this day, where we have liquor license challenges. We have to get this right, and that's why the legislature's proposed a commission that's going to regulate this. The administration wants to look at it towards, their cabinet members overseeing it. And I think they got to find middle ground. I'm confident the Senate President and Assembly Speaker are going to work with the front office to try to get a middle ground on that.
I think one of the frustration of taxpayers in New Jersey is they look at something like legalized gambling. A whole new industry is built, and that's going to be taxed. And so there's money coming into the budget. Now you're going to have legalized marijuana. A whole new industry is built. You're going to have more money coming into the budget, yet they see no relief. And there's nothing in this that would relieve taxpayers of a burden. As a matter of fact, 18 taxes and fees went up in the last budget.
And I've been on your show a number of times. We've talked about things that can lower taxes, like school district regionalization, consolidation. This is not one of them. I'm supporting the legalization of marijuana for social justice reasons. We need to make sure these are not violent criminals. And it's amazing. People are against this until they have a family member or a friend or someone who's arrested for a little marijuana, whether they're in college or afterwards, and then now they can't get a job or they can't get their resume moved forward. That's why this needs to be done. We have some violent criminals out in this state, and every law enforcement dollar should be spent towards that.
Look, I understand it. You've made the point. I understand that's your reason for it. Money will be made, though. There's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars that come into the state?
To maintain the program.
all that money is going to be to maintain the program.
There is the legislature, I don't believe, intends to take any of the money for any new programs. This is basically, we're going to need more law enforcement. We're going to have to do new trainings, retrain police dogs. There's a lot of little pieces that are in this, and that's what the focus
Aren't
here
they
is
one-time
on.
things, though? I mean, or is that
it's going to be an ongoing thing, and we have to make sure that the resources are funded the right way.
So there'll be no net gain from legalizing marijuana, except for the social justice. I mean, economically, there'll be no net gain.
If it is, it'll be minimal. It's nothing that's going to build a new program that we have to sustain.
Speaking of, let's talk about the other vice tax. Legalized gambling, has that brought in as much money as you expected?
I think sports betting has, as you've legalized sports betting, which became apparent. Not only that, it's helped the economy in Monmouth County around Monmouth Park tremendously. The restaurants, and Monmouth Park has a lot of other things outside of sports betting and horse racing. They have mini golf, they have a beer garden, they do a lot of other stuff. So it's bringing people to the restaurants, it's helping our local economy, bringing people to the shops here, and it's been an overall positive.
I alluded to the tax burden and the 18 taxes that have gone up. The governor had an economic program that he announced, and to big fanfare. He made a big showing about it. A little bit later, Senator Sweeney had his economic vision here at Monmouth University, not to as much fanfare, but as part of a panel. One talked about the big problem in the state and the reason businesses are leaving is because there's no VC money. The VC money is going to New York. The VC money, the venture capitalist money is going elsewhere, and they're not investing in businesses in New Jersey, so he came up with a way of trying to get some VC money here. Senator Sweeney said, before we do any of that, we got to deal with the pension. We got to go after the pension and deal with that problem, or we're never going to be able to move forward. Who's right?
I think they're both right to some degrees. The governor is right, but I think you have to do a lot more than that. We need to look towards school district regionalization. You've heard me say it. We got over 600 school districts, K-8s with declining populations, massive administrative costs. I recently put out a legislation to consolidate the 100 smallest towns. Not an overall tax saving, but it sends a message as we start looking at the other pieces. New Jersey has an extraordinary amount of government. As I talk to my legislative colleagues around the country, in Oregon and Colorado and other states, and I tell them about New Jersey's structure, they are just mind blown that we have this much government here.
Right, and every time we talk about it, or anytime I address it as part of the show, I get letters saying it doesn't save as much money as people claim. It sometimes costs more money. It's not what it claims to be.
So those folks are correct when it comes to small municipalities, but when we're talking about larger savings like authorities, agencies, shared service contracts among healthcare, landscaping, snow removal, waste management, you're talking about saving billions of dollars. And when we talk about school districts and merging those districts, it's just a lot of money. I mean, we have 600 plus school districts, superintendent, assistant superintendent, curriculum director. There's no reason. As folks go to work, they're going to drive through over 40 layers of government in a 15-minute drive. It's absolutely insane, the amount of government we have here, and I think that's something that Democrats and Republicans can agree on.
I want to get back to it today in a moment, because I know it's your issue and something you feel passionately about, but I do want to move back to the governor's economic plan for one moment, because when I talked to the New Jersey Business and Industry Association about that plan, they said VC money. They said the reason the VCs aren't coming here is not because we don't have a fund or tax incentives. They're not coming here because of the business climate, because of the high taxes, and because of the overburdensome regulations. And I said, really, the regulations are a big deal? He said, as much as the taxes. That's the reason that businesses aren't going, but it's also the reason businesses are going to leave. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're correct. I think the governor is correct in that this is an important issue, but this has got to be a piece of many, and the business community is right. We launched a website earlier this year, reportredtape.com, for business owners to send in their grievances. And we've heard from folks all over the state of how difficult it is to get through the layers of government here in New Jersey, how many approvals they have to go through, how difficult it is, and we need to make it easy. It's why I've had serious concerns and I'm opposed to the $15 minimum wage. I'm afraid that's going to put out a lot of mom and pop businesses. We need to start looking at how we're going to improve our manufacturing, our STEM, and making sure that our mom and pops that make up so many of our downtowns up and down New Jersey have an opportunity.
You're against the $15 minimum wage, and that's another thing I want to touch on in a moment, on exactly why you're against that when so many people in your party seem to be for it. Were you against the sick pay bill?
I was against the original sick pay, and thankful to the leadership in both houses, which I hope is going to happen with $15 minimum wage. We were able to negotiate it down to something that was much more manageable for mom and pop small businesses.
So now you don't have the same concern that it could put mom and pop small businesses out of business?
No, and most of the mom and pops don't on the paid sick leave, because the original paid sick leave had rollover. It was terrible. And we worked together, we negotiated, and we got it to a place that was manageable for most mom and pops. We combined vacation and sick days. We really put it into place. Larry, a lot of people, they don't realize, especially as I talk to some of my colleagues, many small business owners don't make money for the first several years. 9 out of every 10 small businesses fail. The local guy in Freehold or Asbury Park who owns an ice cream parlor is not wealthy. He's making $40,000, $50,000 a year, and if kid doesn't show up on on Saturday morning scooping ice cream, the 17-year-old kid doesn't, he's going to be the one scooping ice cream. So you add a $15 minimum wage on him with the already extraordinary high rents he or she's paying, they're out of business tomorrow. So we can't, we can't treat a small coffee shop or a bakery the same way as a corporation with record profits, and that's why this $15 minimum wage plan is flawed.
Well, I want to come back and talk more about your consolidation plan, because you ran on this. This isn't something you're new to. I want to get specifics. I'd like you to name towns, if you could,
sure,
that should consolidate, and exactly how much money that would save. We will continue our conversation with Senator Vin Gopal of the 11th Legislative District in Monmouth County when Jersey Matters continues right after this.